Welcome in, everyone. We're diving deep today into German coalition agreements. I have three here from 2018, 2021, and a sneak peek from this year, 2025. It'll be fascinating to see how priorities have shifted over time, right? What's Germany focusing on now compared to a few years ago? It's almost like analyzing their political DNA to see how their vision for the future is changing.
It's truly fascinating. These agreements are so much more than just legal documents. You really get a sense of the government's hopes, their fears, their ambitions. It paints a picture of what they're striving for.
Absolutely. And we have our expert here with us who can decode all the subtle nuances of these documents. They can spot a political pattern a mile away. Ready to dig in?
I'm ready. Let's dive in.
Okay, so before we jump into the specifics, could you give us a quick overview of German coalition politics? Why are these agreements so important in the first place?
They're essentially the blueprint for governing, the result of those tough negotiations between different parties who have to band together to form a majority. It's like a political prenuptial agreement. They hash out who takes on what role, how they'll approach the big issues, and what they want to achieve together.
So, by comparing these agreements across different years, we can see how Germany's priorities are shifting over time.
Precisely. Think of it as a time-lapse video of Germany's political landscape, adapting to new challenges and opportunities.
All right, let's rewind back to 2018. The agreement titled Sichern, was gut ist, aber gleichzeitig den Mut zur politischen Debatte, zu Erneuerung und für Veränderung beweisen, that roughly translates to securing what is good, but at the same time showing courage for political debate, for renewal and change. It seems pretty comprehensive.
It is 14 chapters covering a vast range of areas, from economics and education to social issues and defense. It reflects the broad scope of government responsibility, a pretty standard structure for these types of agreements.
So what were some of the key priorities that stood out to you in this 2018 agreement? What really jumped out?
Well, the emphasis on Europe was quite striking. There's a lot about strengthening the EU's role globally, boosting economic growth within the bloc, and tackling major challenges like migration and security collaboratively. It's clear that Germany viewed itself as a leader, a driving force for European integration.
And it seems they were also quite focused on social well-being, ensuring people had good jobs, access to affordable housing, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. There's a whole section dedicated to securing good work, broad relief, and social participation. Employment, social security, and affordable housing, particularly for families, were high on their agenda. It reflects their social values, their commitment to a society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
And remember that Baukindergeld policy we discussed, the one designed to help families buy homes. That fits right into that, doesn't it?
Exactly. Those specific policies really bring the agreement to life, showing how those broader goals translate into concrete actions.
And then there was the push for digitalization and innovation. I remember a catchy phrase from the document: offensive for education, research, and digitalization.
Ah, yes, the offensive. And remember that target of having 100,000 electric vehicle charging stations set up by 2020? That was a pretty bold statement back then. It showed they were starting to take climate change seriously and recognizing the shift towards electric mobility.
So 2018 shows a strong focus on Europe, social well-being, and laying the groundwork for the digital age. Now let's fast forward to 2021. This agreement's title is Die Welt ist am Beginn eines Jahrzehnts im Umbruch, which translates to The world is at the beginning of a decade of upheaval. That already suggests things are changing, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It acknowledges that the world was entering a period of significant transformation, driven by factors like climate change, technological disruption, and maybe even a growing sense of global instability.
And the structure of this agreement feels different. It's more streamlined, more future-oriented.
You're picking up on those subtle shifts already. Instead of 14 chapters like the previous one, this agreement adopts a more thematic approach, highlighting future investments and sustainable finances as overarching themes. It signals a shift from simply managing the present to actively shaping the future.
So what were some of the key themes that stood out to you in this 2021 agreement?
Climate action takes center stage in this one. It's not just a side issue anymore. It's woven throughout the entire agreement. They set ambitious targets for renewable energy, emissions reductions, and sustainable transportation. Remember that pledge to have 15 million electric cars on German roads by 2030. That's a huge leap from those 100,000 charging stations they aimed for just a few years earlier.
It seems like they hit the accelerator on climate policy.
Exactly. And then there's digitalization. The agreement talks about creating a gigabit society fostering innovation in artificial intelligence. They clearly see digital technology as a key driver of future prosperity, but also something that needs to be carefully managed.
And they didn't shy away from social issues either. Social justice seems to have become an even bigger priority.
Absolutely. They address inequality, promoting diversity and inclusion, and strengthening the social safety net. It's as if they're trying to ensure that the benefits of progress are shared widely and that no one is left behind in this rapidly changing world. That commitment to raising the minimum wage to 12 euros per hour is a very concrete example of their social justice goals in action.
Okay, so climate action, digitalization, and social justice are the big themes for 2021. It definitely feels like a shift in focus from 2018, a response to a world that's changing faster than ever.
And don't forget, all of this was happening against the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic didn't just disrupt daily life, it forced governments to rethink their priorities, to invest in more resilient healthcare systems, stronger social safety nets, and more robust economies.
It's like the pandemic was a stress test for the system, revealing weaknesses and forcing them to adapt quickly.
Exactly. And it's very likely that the lessons learned from the pandemic will continue to shape German politics in the years to come.
Now, before we move on to 2025, let's pause for a second and think about our listeners. What's striking you so far about these shifts in priorities? Are any of these themes particularly relevant to your work or your life? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes. What resonates most with you? What questions are coming to mind as we prepare to explore the 2025 agreement and its potential impact on the future?
We'll delve into those in the next part of our deep dive, but take a moment now to reflect on these shifts and how they might connect to your own world.
We'll be right back. And we're back, diving deeper into those German coalition agreements.
We've just taken a trip back in time to 2018 and 2021, revisiting those agreements.
Now let's fast forward to the present. Let's talk about that intriguing excerpt you sent from the 2025 agreement.
Yeah, the one about the Vorschlagsrecht, which essentially means the right to propose candidates for certain high-level government positions. It might seem like a minor detail, but it really caught our eye.
And for good reason. Even small procedural changes like this can have a ripple effect throughout the entire political system.
Like adjusting a tiny gear in a complex machine. You might not notice the impact right away, but it can subtly change how the whole thing operates.
Absolutely. This specific excerpt deals with the power of individual federal ministers, the Bundesministerinnen und Bundesminister, to propose candidates for state secretaries and ministers of state.
So basically, it gives them more control over who they bring onto their team.
Precisely. And that could influence how ministries function, their priorities, and how effectively they implement the broader goals outlined in the coalition agreement.
It's like giving them more ownership over their piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. It could lead to more decisive action, a clearer vision within each ministry. But it also raises some questions about potential power imbalances.
Yeah, could it create friction within the coalition if some ministers become too dominant?
That's definitely a possibility. We'll have to see how this new dynamic plays out in practice.
Now, let's try to connect this back to those big themes we saw emerging in the earlier agreements. We talked about climate action, digitalization, social justice. How might this shift in the Vorschlagsrecht affect those areas?
Well, imagine a minister who is passionately dedicated to tackling climate change. If they can appoint like-minded individuals to key positions within their ministry, they could really push the agenda forward.
They would have a whole team aligned with their vision.
Right. They could prioritize funding for renewable energy projects, streamline regulations for green technologies, and really accelerate that shift to a more sustainable economy.
But on the other hand, what if a minister is less enthusiastic about climate action? Could this change actually give them more power to hinder progress?
That's a valid concern. A minister with different priorities, let's say economic growth or fiscal conservatism, might not be as eager to push those ambitious climate targets if they have more control over their ministry.
It's a bit of a tug of war, isn't it? Different ministries pulling in different directions, trying to find that balance between competing priorities.
That's the inherent challenge of coalition governments, finding that sweet spot, that compromise that allows them to move forward without completely sacrificing their individual goals.
It's like a political dance, a constant negotiation between the partners.
And the music they're dancing to is the coalition agreement, that shared vision that's supposed to guide their steps.
But as we've seen, that vision can evolve, that those priorities can shift as the world around them changes.
Absolutely. And this new element of the Vorschlagsrecht adds another layer of complexity.
So it's not just about what's written in the agreement. It's also about who's interpreting it, who's putting those words into action.
That's where the personalities, the ambitions, the priorities of each minister really come into play.
It's like watching a behind-the-scenes drama unfold. The coalition agreement is the script, but the actors are adding their own improvisations.
And we, the audience, are trying to make sense of it all, understand their motivations, and anticipate the potential consequences.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture. We've seen those shifts in priorities from 2018 to 2021, and now this intriguing new development in 2025. What does it all tell us about the direction of German politics?
It suggests a nation grappling with profound change, both domestically and globally. They're trying to adapt their political system to meet those challenges head-on.
Like they're sailing through uncharted waters, adjusting their course as they encounter new obstacles and new opportunities.
And that might be where this new emphasis on individual ministerial power comes in. Perhaps it's a way to make the system more agile, more responsive to the rapid pace of change.
Or maybe it's a sign of growing fragmentation within the coalition. Maybe each party needs to assert its own agenda more strongly.
It's too early to tell for sure, but it's definitely a development worth watching closely.
And this isn't just a German story, is it? These challenges, climate change, digitalization, social justice, they're playing out on a global scale.
Absolutely. And the way Germany chooses to address them could have ramifications far beyond their own borders.
So, to our listeners out there, we're curious. What are your takeaways from this exploration of German coalition agreements? Do you see any parallels with the political landscape in your own country? And what are the potential consequences of these evolving priorities for businesses, for individuals, for the world as a whole?
Those are the big picture questions we'll tackle in the final part of our deep dive. But for now, take a moment to ponder those connections, those global ripple effects that might be closer than you think.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. We've spent quite a bit of time dissecting these German coalition agreements, tracing those evolving priorities from 2018 all the way to 2025, uncovering a few surprises along the way.
And now it's time to look ahead to the future. What's next?
Exactly. What challenges and opportunities might Germany face in this coming decade? And for our listeners, how could these trends impact you, no matter where you are in the world?
It's all connected, global trends shaping local realities.
Very true. So let's tackle the big one first, climate change. Germany has those ambitious commitments, but actually implementing them, turning those promises into reality, that's a whole other challenge, isn't it?
It's a monumental task. It requires a change in thinking, behavior, investment across every sector of society.
Think about that goal of 15 million electric cars by 2030. It sounds impressive on paper, but it means completely rethinking infrastructure, energy production, consumer habits. It touches everything.
And it's not just about technology, it's about people.
Yeah, you're right. Convincing people to change how they drive, maybe even their entire lifestyles. And then there are the jobs. What happens to those working in the fossil fuel industry as we transition to renewable energy?
It's a complex puzzle. All those pieces, social, economic, political, they all have to fit together.
And Germany can't do it alone. Climate change is a global problem requiring global solutions.
Absolutely. Germany's role on the world stage, its ability to influence other nations, to build those partnerships, that will be absolutely crucial to tackling climate change.
So that's the challenge. How to transition to a sustainable future while also ensuring economic stability and maintaining social cohesion. But within that challenge, where's the opportunity?
Well, the opportunity lies in becoming a global leader in the green economy. Germany could be at the forefront of renewable energy technology, sustainable manufacturing, all those circular economy solutions that could export their expertise, attract investment, and create entirely new industries.
Turning a challenge into a competitive edge.
Precisely. And it's not just about profits, it's about setting an example for sustainable development that other countries can learn from and adapt to their own contexts.
All right, so climate change and the green economy. Let's move on to digitalization. We saw it in the agreements, that vision of a gigabit society, a future driven by artificial intelligence, by high-speed connectivity.
But what does that actually mean? How will that shape our daily lives?
It's a huge question. We're talking about automation transforming industries, artificial intelligence potentially changing the very nature of work, algorithms influencing our online experiences. It's a future brimming with potential, but also a lot of unknowns.
And potential downsides as well. What happens to the workers whose jobs are replaced by machines? How do we guarantee that the benefits of digitalization are shared fairly? and don't just widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots.
These aren't just technical issues, they're ethical and social dilemmas as well.
Exactly, and they require thoughtful solutions. Think about education, retraining programs for workers displaced by automation, policies that promote digital literacy that make sure everyone can participate, regulations that protect our privacy and prevent bias in algorithms.
It's about shaping the digital future so that it benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And Germany, with its history of engineering excellence and that strong social conscience, they could be in a really good position to lead the way in developing ethical and inclusive digital solutions.
To our listeners out there, how do you see these digital trends playing out in your own lives, in your own work? Are you excited about the possibilities or feeling a little apprehensive? What steps are you taking to prepare for this rapidly changing digital world?
It's a conversation we all need to be having.
And let's not forget about social justice. It's a consistent theme throughout these coalition agreements, but the challenges are multifaceted and complex.
We're talking about things like income inequality, discrimination, lack of social mobility issues that are deeply rooted in history, in culture, in our economic systems.
It's not just about addressing past wrongs. It's about building a better future where everyone has the opportunity to succeed, no matter where they come from, what they believe, what their circumstances are.
It's about building a genuinely inclusive society, one where everyone feels valued and has a fair shot at success.
And that takes more than just good intentions. It takes real policies, investments in education, in healthcare, in making sure people have access to affordable housing, and a genuine commitment to dismantling those systemic barriers that hold people back.
It also requires us to be willing to have those tough conversations, to confront those uncomfortable truths about privilege and power and inequality.
So to all our listeners out there, think about what social justice means to you. What role do you play in building a more equitable and just world? And what can we learn from Germany's approach, from their successes and their failures, as we grapple with these same challenges in our own communities?
This is a journey we're all taking together.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, explored those shifting priorities within German coalition agreements. But here's the key takeaway. These aren't just about German politics. They reflect those global challenges we all share, the choices we make, the future we're creating together.
A future with its share of uncertainty, but also bursting with potential.
So as we wrap up, we'll leave you with this final thought. What kind of future do you want to see? What role will you play in bringing it about? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We hope it sparked some new ideas and encouraged you to think critically about the world around us. Until next time.